All right, Shalom. I going, I'm going to start off, excuse me, as always, by giving our praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushai, Bahashim Racha Kodash, double honors unto the apostles, the elders, and the bishops of Great Millstone. I want to send much love unto the brothers out there doing this work in truth and sincerity, and I also want to send peace and blessings unto the believers of the hopeful elect. And in this lesson, I wanted to get into some history centered around the Renaissance period and just to show you the roots of some of Esau's wickedness in the name of Christianity and just how, slavery started and so on and so forth, man. These things are very important to know because most Jakes don't truly know the history of what happened to our people when we went, into slavery during the 1400s, 1500s, 1600s, and what Esau was doing, man. And so in this lesson, I just want to cover some of that information. This is some information that most Christians won't deal with, especially vocab Malone, because it exposes the true nature of colonial Christianity in which he's preaching. And all these so-called, modern day churches are doing, man. They're, preaching madness and they're, breaking the scriptures down wrong, but their beliefs are rooted in bloodshed and wickedness, man. And that's what I'm going to prove here in this lesson. And I pray that this information is enlightening and comforting to you brothers and sisters out there. So the name of the information I'm going to here is something that's known as a Papal bull. And as you see, the name of it is called Diversas. All right. And please excuse me for mispronouncing some of these words because I don't speak Latin. I don't speak Portuguese. So please excuse me, but I'm going to go through this information. I pray it's edifying. But it says here on Wikipedia, it says Diversas, English translation means until different. It says is a Papal bull issued on 18 June 1452 by Nicholas V. Now, what is a Papal bull? Here it says a papal bull, It says a papal bull is a type of public decree, letters patent, or charter issued by a pope of the Catholic Church. It is named after the Latin seal bulla that was traditionally appended to the end in order to authenticate it. So this was a public decree or an official order that was decreed by Pope Nicholas V. All right. It says it authorized Alfonso V of Portugal to conquer Saracens and pagans and co-signed them to perpetual servitude or perpetual slavery. Now, if you get a chance, brothers and sisters, you should look up Alfonso V of Portugal, okay? This man played a key role in the enslavement of Jake in the west coast of Africa, all right? But it says it authorized him to conquer Saracens and pagans. Now, who are Saracens? Saracens are basically people who practice Islam, okay? Now, they were referred to, all right, the people who inhabited the region of Arabia, okay, which was basically Ishmael. But it was people who practiced Islam. So he was authorized to conquer people who practice Islam and pagans, right? People who were non-Christian in their eyes, okay? It says, and co-signed them to perpetual servitude. So he had a right to enslave them, according to the Pope, okay? It says Pope Calixtus III reiterated the bull in 1456 with Intercateria, not to be confused with Alexander VI bull of the same title. renewed by Pope Sixtus IV in 1481 and Pope Leo X in 1514 with the Praesales Donatianus. Excuse me. It says English, especially the description. It says the concept of the consignment of exclusive spheres of influence to certain nation states was extended to the Americas in 1493 by Pope Alexander VI with Intercateria. Now, this guy, Pope Alexander VI, brothers and sisters should be familiar with this guy because he's the father of that devil, okay, who is painted as the Lord. This is, Pope Alexander VI, also known as Rodrigo Borgia, I think. Yeah, but he's a part of that line. Okay. This nigga, man. Him and his son. Wickedness. Okay. We all know what they're about. It's not him, but Pope Alexander VI, excuse me. But yeah, man. So I get a little information here in the background of the Pope signing this Papal bull for King Afonso of Portugal. It says, background. By the summer of 1452, Ottoman Sultan Mehmed II had completed the Ramli Hasari fortress on the western or European side of the Bosporus. Located several miles north of Constantinople, it commanded the narrowest part of the strait. Byzantine Emperor Constantine XI wrote to the Pope Nicholas for help. Issued less than a year before the fall of Constantinople, right? And brothers and sisters should get into that information. Fall of Constantinople, it says in 1453, the bull may have been intended to begin another crusade against the Ottoman Empire. And we know that the Ottoman Empire was basically practicing Islam, okay? And they had a bunch of wars, all right, with the, so-called Christians or the Catholics, man, all right, the Crusade Wars. It says, it was not until Afonso V of Portugal responded to a papal call for aid against the Turks that Pope Nicholas V agreed to support the Portuguese claims regarding territory in Africa. So until Afonso V of Portugal responded, all right, for a call to help, basically, then the Pope authorized them to the rights to claim the territory in Africa. And what you're going to find out is that that territory was the west coast of Africa, where Jake was at, okay? And you'll find that out as I continue to read on in the information that I have. It says, although some troops arrived from the mercantile city-states in north of Italy, Pope Nicholas did not have the influence the Byzantines thought that he had over the Western kings and princes. France and England were both weakened by the 100 Years' War, and Spain was still engaged in conflict with Islamic strongholds in Iberia. Now, who was in Iberia? You had Jakes there, man. In particular, the Moors, okay, who were just Jakes who were practicing Islam. That was into it with the Spaniards, man. And they had many wars, okay? It says, any Western contribution was not adequate to counterbalance Ottoman strength. So I just wanted to read a background on that, okay? So now I'm going to move over here to my next piece of information, because this Diversas, all right, is the root, or I should say one of the roots for the doctrine of discovery, all right, or manifest destiny, as like to say here in the Americas. But this is from a website called the Doctrine of Discovery, and this is the Diversas. Now, this goes into a little more detail of the Papal Bull. It says, Papal Bull Diversas, 18 June 1452. It says Pope Nicholas V issued the Papal bull Dom Diversas on 18 June 1452. It authorized Alfonso V of Portugal to reduce any Saracens, Muslims, and pagans, and any other unbelievers to perpetual slavery. You see that? He had this right from the Pope. It says this facilitated the Portuguese slave trade from West Africa. And who was in West Africa, man? The Israelites, okay? Jake was, man. It says the same Pope wrote the bull, Romanus Pontifex, right? And Lord willing, I go into this Papal bull some other time. It says on January 5th, 1455, to the same Alfonso, as a follow-up to the Dom Diversas, it extended to the Catholic nations of Europe dominion over discovered lands during the Age of Discovery, along with the sanctifying the seizure of non-Christian lands. It encouraged the enslavement of native non-Christian peoples in Africa and the New World. So we see the wickedness of this unrighteous decree that was given by the Pope, man. You know what? Let me get that scripture because I have it pulled up here. Okay. This is Isaiah 10:1. It says, woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees, and that write grievousness which they have prescribed. This Dom Diversas is a unrighteous decree, man, that was issued by Esau, man, okay, by the devil. And through the writing of this Papal bull, this brought all kinds of hell on our people as we know of today, man. All right. So reading on, it says, we weighing all and singular the premises with due meditation, and noting that since we had formerly by other letters of ours granted, among other things, free and ample faculty to the aforesaid King Alfonso to invade, search out, capture, vanquish, and subdue all Saracens and pagans whatsoever, and other enemies of Christ whatsoever place. You see that? They did this all in the name of Christ, in the name of Christianity, okay? If you wasn't down with their Christian madness, then you had to be dealt with, enslaved or killed. Esau didn't give a damn. He was on a hunt to Christianize the whole planet Earth, man, just as you see him doing today, okay? He's spreading that crap everywhere, man. But look at what this devil is telling this other devil, Alfonso, what to do. This is wickedness, man. It says, and the kingdoms, dukedoms, principalities, dominions, possessions, and all movable and immovable goods whatsoever held and possessed by them, and to reduce their persons to perpetual slavery, and to apply and appropriate to himself and his successors the kingdoms, dukedoms, counties, principalities, dominions, possessions, and goods, and to convert them to his and their use and profit. So everything that Jake had, or anything that we owned, they took it, man, and used it for their profit and good. It says, by having secured the said faculty, the said King Alfonso, or by his authority, the aforesaid infantry, it says, justly and lawfully has acquired and possessed and doth possess these islands, lands, harbors, and seas, and they do of the right belong and pertain to the said King Alfonso and his successors. So the Pope, he decreed this, man, that this guy, King Alfonso of Portugal, had the rights, okay, to take non-Christian lands. to take the lands of, Saracens or Muslims and to put them into captivity, man, and take all their goods. Esau still has this same mentality today, man. Okay. But this is the root of it, man. In these PayPal bulls, it says in 1493, Alexander VI issued the bull Antikythera, stating one Christian nation did not have the right to establish dominion over lands previously dominated by another Christian nation, thus establishing the law of nations. Together, the Diversas and the Romanius Pontifex and the Antikythera came to serve as the basis and justification for the doctrine of discovery. The global slave trade of the 15th and 16th centuries and the age of imperialism. So through these PayPal bulls, man, Esau brought hell upon Jake, man. Holy hell, okay? Unrighteous hell. We were justified by the Lord, but man, he had the rights, according to the Pope, to just enslave Jake and treat them like anything, man, okay? Took all their goods, man. But this is the root of it, okay? These PayPal bulls. So here, moving on to the next thing now. This is an article from Face Change Alliance, all right? And this is just a copy of that PayPal bull that, our brothers and sisters can go read. All you have to do is type in Diversas on Google, and all of these articles should pop up. But I just wanted to read this paragraph here, then I move on to the next thing. It says, this PayPal bull's statement, right? It says PayPal bull Diversas, issued by Pope Nicholas in 1452, fueled the fire of an era of human history referred to as the Age of Discovery, essentially a public decree or declaration of intent. This writing encouraged Portuguese, Italian, and other European explorers to seek out new to them lands, right? Those lands were new to Esau, but it wasn't new to Jake over here in the Americas, man, because Jake was already in these lands. You can't discover something that somebody already has. But Esau used those tricky words to justify his actions. Oh, we discovered it. How? When somebody is already there. That's crazy, man. They're like me going outside to somebody's car, breaking into the car and taking it. And when the police catch me and ask me why I took this car, I'm going to say, look, I discovered it. So they should let me go. No, man, I'm going to go to jail for stealing someone's car. Well, Esau, you're guilty of stealing someone's land. Okay? This land was new to you, but not to Jake. Northern Kingdom, that is, man. But it was written for you to do what you did. Okay, but this is the root history of your works, man. Of you Christians, so-called, right? It says to colonize those lands, in which he did, and to proselytize the inhabitants of those lands, meaning what? Turn them into Christians. Convert them, okay? And this is what Esau did when he went to explore the new world. He put hell on Jake and converted them to Christianity, man. Thus you have Jake serving Christianity and these idols, man, especially the Northern Kingdom. Northern Kingdom still hold on to sweet white Jesus, man. They can't get enough of Jesus Christos, okay? They got him all over his house. I see it every day, man. They're at work. They love these idols, bro. They got them in their yards. But it's all rooted here in these PayPal bulls, man. It says using whatever means necessary, even violence, enslavement, and murder. This is what Esau was using to convert Jake into Christianity, man, and the world. But mainly Jake, All right. He used violence, enslavement, and murder. It says below is the PayPal bull statement in its entirety. So if you brothers and sisters want to read through this PayPal bull, you can. All right. But it goes into the wickedness of Esau, man. All right. Next thing here is an article from AfroLegends.com. It says African heritage. All right. Still covering the dumb Diversas. It says in the title here, dumb Diversas, or the Vatican's authorization of slavery. It says, I knew that the Catholic Church via the Pope had authorized slavery in the 1400s, but I didn't know that they had authorized the eradication, subjugation, etc. of African people. Somehow, I never connected the two. It says the bull, Pope Nicholas V decree of 1452, was addressed to Alfonso V and conceded Portugal's right to attack, conquer, and subjugate Saracens or Muslims and pagans, non-believers. This is also known as Don Diversas. A papal bull is a document through which a pope of the Roman Catholic Church issues an important public decree, letter, patent, or charter. It says, we grant you, King of Spain and Portugal, by these present documents, with our apostolic authority, full and free permission to invade, search out, capture, and subjugate the Saracens and pagans and any other unbelievers and enemies of Christ wherever they may be. So you were considered an enemy of Christ if you wasn't a believer, brother. If you didn't believe in Esau's Christianity. It's the same mentality today. This is why Vocab Malone keep on approaching the Hebrew Israelites, because in his eyes, we are enemies of Christ, right? Or we are unbelievers, pagans to him. So he's on a mission still to convert us, man. His behavior is rooted in these PayPal bulls, man. So every time you see Vocab Malone and these Christians attacking us, it's rooted in these PayPal bulls. Because how dare we not submit ourselves to the box of Christianity, to the box that Esau created for us? How dare us say that we are the Israelites? Esau can't have that. So Vocab Malone is constantly attacking us, man. Because he's a racist, okay? He's a bigot. But back in this article, it says, as well as their kingdoms, duchies, counties, principalities, and other property, and to reduce their persons into perpetual servitude or slavery. It says, these clearly refer to the lands along the coast of West Africa. And once again, who was on the coast of West Africa? Jake was, man. And these Portuguese were enslaving Jake in the 1400s. It says, by these decree, Pope Nicholas V conceded to the King of Portugal, Alfonso V, and to Prince Henry and all their successors, all their conquest of Africa and reduction to perpetual servitude of all people deemed non-believers and enemies of Christ and all their properties. So they put Jake in slavery and took all of Jake's property. It says a significant subsequent concession given by Nicholas V in a brief issue to King Alfonso in 1454 extended the rights granted to existing territories to all those that might be taken in the future, together with a second reference to some who have already been enslaved. This has been used to suggest that Nicholas sanctioned the purchase of black slaves from the infidel, many Guanemans. Excuse me, if I ain't saying that correctly. I think it's Guanemin. It says, and other Negroes, right? Jake, taken by force, and some by barter of unprohibited articles, or by other lawful contract or purchase, have been converted to the Catholic faith. And it is hoped by the help of divine mercy that if such progress be continued with them, either those people will be converted to the faith, or at least the souls of many of them will be gained by Christ. So Esau was hell bent on converting Jacob, man, even though he had him in servitude and mistreating them, man, breaking up families, having intercourse with children, raping Jake's wives, raping the men. But he wanted them to be Christians, right? This is the devil that we're talking about, man. And it's all rooted in this PayPal bull, Diversas. So now I go into my last thing here, okay? And real quick, Psalms 94 and 20. It says, shall the throne of iniquity have fellowship with thee, which frameth mischief by a law? They gather themselves together against the soul of the righteous and condemn the innocent blood. This is what Esau has done. This is what he's doing right now. He's framing mischief by a law. And one of these laws is this Diversas. This is wickedness, man. Because this so-called gave Alfonso and these other European explorers the right to enslave non-Christians, to enslave, Muslim, and just pretty much overtake the world, man. Take Jake lands. That's wickedness, man. But it will prophesy for Esau to do what he did. This is Micah 2:1 in the NLT. It says, what sorrow awaits you who lie awake at night, thinking up evil plans? You rise at dawn and hurry to carry them out, simply because you have the power to do so. And Esau does have the power, man. Okay, the Most High God has given him the power. You can read Job 9:24, man, and other precepts, okay? But the earth was given into the hand of the wicked. And so through his power, he has worked all manner of wickedness, man. It says, when you want a piece of land, you find a way to seize it, thus making these PayPal bulls, one of them, this Diversas. This is a way for him to take your lands, to take your goods if you wasn't Christian, man, okay? Do you see this devil? This is the devil, man. This is how he got America and these other lands here in the Western Hemisphere, man. It was through those PayPal bulls. It says, when you want someone's house, you take it by fraud and violence. This is what he used, fraud and violence, but especially violence, okay? It says, you cheat a man of his property, stealing his family's inheritance. Is this not what Esau did when he came to the side of the earth, man? He took Jacob's inheritance. The devil, man. It says, but this is what the Lord says, I will reward your evil with evil. You won't be able to pull your neck out of the noose. You will no longer walk around proudly, for it will be a terrible time. And we are approaching that terrible time, Esau, in which the Lord is going to judge you for everything that you have done against his people, man. All right? As it says in Isaiah, for the controversy of Zion. You have to pay for this, man. So to hell with you and your Christianity, bro. If what you're doing is Christianity, I don't want to be a part of it. I don't want to serve what you're serving, man. You're the devil, okay? So back. Okay, yeah, so moving on here to the next information I have. This is an article on Wikipedia. It says slavery in Portugal, okay? It says slavery in Portugal occurred since before the country's formation. During the pre-independence period, inhabitants of the current Portuguese territory was often enslaved and enslaved others. After independence, During the existence of the Kingdom of Portugal, the country played a leading role in the Atlantic slave trade. There you have it right here. As you can see, the Portuguese, man, they started it. And in school, all right, if your history teacher knows something, they'll tell you that the first slaves that came to America came from Spain and Portugal. That's what they teach in school, man. Though my, college professor told me on the first day of class that the first slave that came to America was from Spain and Portugal. All right. This is the root of it. It's rooted in the Papal bulls, man. It says, which involved the mass trade and transportation of slaves from Africa and other parts of the world to the American continent. You see that? It says the import of slaves was banned in European Portugal in 1761 by the Marquis de Pombal. And please forgive me, brothers and sisters, I don't speak Portuguese. So I'm going to mispronounce some of these words and some of these names, okay? So please excuse me. It says, however, slavery within the African Portuguese colonies was only abolished in 1869. And that was 4 years after, they so-called emancipated Jake in 1865, right? It says the Atlantic slave trade began in 1444, okay? Look at that number, man. It says when Portuguese traders brought the first large number of slaves from Africa to Europe. In 1526, Portuguese mariners carried the first shipload of African slaves to Brazil and the Americas, establishing the Atlantic slave trade. So this was started by the Portuguese, man. And it's all rooted in this dumb Diversas Papal bull. So they brought Jake in 1526 to Brazil, man. And if you do research, they'll tell you that it was more so-called African slaves that went to Brazil than to America, okay? It's a lot of Jake down there, man. So this devil been at work, okay? This is 1526, man. And if you read some more information, all right, you'll find out that you had Jakes in I think it was 1542 that was taken to the island of Hispaniola, and they was there in slavery on that island with the Northern Kingdom, man, with Ephraim. That was in subjugation under the Spaniards at that time. So this nigga been at work, man. This is, 500 years, 600 years of enslavement, bro. 1444. That's damn near 600 years of this man enslaving Jake. He got to pay for this. 600 years, bro. He got to pay. He got to pay. Okay. So I'll scroll down here to one more part, then I'll close out, man. But I'm gonna go here to the age of discovery. Okay. The age of discovery, it says black slaves. Now I'm gonna read a good portion of this here, and I'll close out, man. But you see the wickedness of this devil. Okay. It says black slaves. It says African slaves prior to 1441 were predominantly Berbers and Arabs from the North African Barbary coast, known as Moors, to the Iberians. Who are the Moors, man? That was Jake. It was Jake who were practicing Islam, okay? So Esau been at war with Jake, man, since the 1400s. One of the last strongholds that the Moors had was in Granada, Spain. And they lost that stronghold in the year of 1492 in January. Yeah, it was January 1492 when the last stronghold in Granada, Spain fell. to Esau, man, and they enslaved Jake. It says they were typically enslaved during wars and conquests between Christian and Islamic kingdoms, right? Christians and Muslims battling. Okay, they even battle to this very day. It says the first expeditions of sub-Saharan Africa were sent out by Prince Infante de Henrique. And please forgive me, I don't speak Portuguese, man. But it says known commonly today as Henry the Navigator. So as I read on, I'm going to refer to this guy as Henry the Navigator, all right? Because I don't speak Portuguese. But this guy, he's very important, okay? You should write his name down and look him up. It says, known commonly today as Henry the Navigator, with the intent to probe how far the kingdoms of the Moors and their power reached. The expedition sent by Henry came back with African slaves as a way to compensate for the expenses of their voyages. The enslavement of Africans was seen as a military campaign because the people that the Portuguese encountered were identified as Moorish and thus associated with Islam. So when Esau was enslaving Jake, they looked at it as a military campaign because Jake was identifying as a Muslim, okay? So Esau was looking at it as war. But then again, he still was enslaving unbelievers and pagans, so-called, okay? All in the name of Christianity, man. This is the roots of vocab Malone beliefs, okay? It says the royal chronicler Gomez, right? Ain't gonna say his full name. It says was never decided on the Moorishness of the slaves brought back from Africa due to a seeming lack of contact with Islam. It says slavery in Portugal and the number of slaves expanded after the Portuguese began an exploration of sub-Saharan Africa. And that's the so-called west coast of Africa, right? It says slave raids in sub-Saharan Africa began in the 1430s and the 1440s as war campaigns. So Esau was having fun, man. Slave raids. He was attacking Jake, bro, in the 1430s, okay? This is how far back this shit go, man. He been shedding blood, okay? He been doing this, okay? It says by this period, but this period was short-lived. The Portuguese quickly transitioned into a trade network with African nobility and slavers. Prince Henry the Navigator, because that's who it is, this guy here, he's known as Henry the Navigator, began selling African slaves in Lagos in 1444. Now, where is Lagos? Lagos is the chief city or the capital of Nigeria. That's one of the most booming cities in Nigeria, man, Lagos. Well, that was a slave city, man. And you had this guy here, the Navigator there, selling slaves in 1444. This how far back this shit go, man. They've been putting hell on Jake, bro. But it started with these Portuguese rooted in this Papal bull, the Diversas. Okay? This was their justification. It says in 1455, Pope Nicholas V gave Portugal the rights to continue the slave trade in West Africa under the provision that they convert all people who are enslaved, meaning what? Turn them into Christians, into Catholics. And you niggas got the nerve to come to us talking about some Christianity, man. Please. It says the Portuguese soon expanded their trade along the whole west coast of Africa. So all of Jake who was there, man, that was putting them in slavery. It says Henry the Navigator held the monopoly of all expeditions to Africa granted by the crown until his death in 1460. Afterward, any ship sailing for Africa required authorization from the crown. All slaves and goods brought back to Portugal were subject to duties and tariffs. Slaves were baptized before shipment, right? They were baptized in Jake, man. Their process of enslavement, which was viewed by critics as cruel, was justified by the conversion of the enslaved to Christianity. This devil been at work, man. Okay. It says the high demand for slaves was due to a shortage of laborers in Portugal. Black slaves were in high demand than Moorish slaves because they were much easier to convert to Christianity and less likely to escape. Did you see this, man? Did you see this? Okay. Esau was having trouble trying to convert Jake, who was into Islam. He had trouble with them, but it was much easier to convert Jake, who wasn't into any, so-called religion, as into Islam. Now, Jake was going off, but they wasn't into Islam, so Esau thought it was easier to convert Jake on the west coast of Africa, man. It says, although it was more expensive to purchase a slave than it was to employ freemen, the sparse population and the lack of free labor made the purchase of a slave a necessary investment. The number of black slaves in Portugal, given by contemporary accounts, argue that Lisbon and the colonies of Portugal averaged a maximum of 10% of the population between the 16th and 18th centuries. Now, this city here, Lisbon, all right, this was a major slave city in the country of Portugal, okay? You still have slaves there to this very day, meaning the descendants of the slavers, still there in that city, man. It's an actual documentary on it, all right? And then you had a city called Seville, Spain. There was also a major city that they were selling slaves at, man. So you had Lisbon, Portugal, and Seville, Spain, all right? Two major cities. It says, but these numbers are impossible to verify. Most slaves in Portugal were castrated in Lisbon and to the south in the Algarve. It says the number of black slaves brought to Lisbon and sold cannot be known. This is because the records of both royal institutions responsible for the sale of black enslaved people, the Casa de Guin, excuse me if I'm not, if I ain't saying that right, it says in the Casa dos Escravas were damaged during the earthquake of 1755 in Lisbon. It says, and the fiscal records containing the numbers and sales of these companies were destroyed. The records of the royal chronicler Zurara claim that 927 African slaves were brought to Portugal between 1441 and 1448, and an estimate 1,000 black slaves arrived in Portugal each year afterward. A common estimate is that around 2,000 black slaves arrived